All right, it's recording now, so welcome. I usually get started like right away, so as soon
Yeah.
as you join. So thanks for joining. For those who are joining after the fact on the channel, welcome. This is Typology Gifts. I'm Dan. I'm your host, and I will be. Is it Ali or Ali? How do you pronounce your name, by the way?
It works either way.
Oh, okay. Well, do you have a preference, or you just have no preference?
No preference.
No preference. Okay. I guess I'll probably just call you Ali then. So,
Okay.
so nice to meet you. Thanks for scheduling this time. And for those who haven't seen one of my videos before, basically what I do is just help people with a second opinion on what their type might be. It's usually more of a cooperative or collaborative thing than it is a me confidently telling you 100% you're this. It's more like my suggestion or my thought, and then we talk about it and see if that fits with what your theories are and things like that. So it's
Okay.
pretty mellow, and I'm gonna finish 2 drinks during this video. I'll finish one in the first half, and then I'll go take a break, and I'll make another one. Come back for the second half. So,
Okay.
have you seen any of the videos I've made before, like this?
I've only seen one before.
Do you remember which one it was?
It was you were typing some guy named Daniel or Dave.
Uh huh.
You were debating whether he's an ITP or an ENTP.
Oh, okay.
He had longer hair.
Okay,
So,
okay. Yep. I've had a few of the NTP videos, so I think I know which
mm,
one you're talking about, though. It's,
yeah.
it's almost getting to the point where I've made too many of them now, where I have to like go back and like rewatch.
Yeah.
um, okay, cool. So I guess I'll just start jumping in and ask you some questions. Um,
Okay.
when you watched the video, what was your how did you um, process the information you saw in the video? Don't necessarily worry too much about what your opinion of the video was, but more like it's so vague, right? Could you walk me through? Could you explain what happened when you clicked on that video? Could you just like give me a beat by beat? Like, what do you remember?
Um, I is it what I remember or like what I was thinking while watching it, or I guess I'll just
Take a
do both.
pick. Take your pick.
Um, so I clicked on it because I wanted to get a feel for what the session might be like. I mean,
Mhm.
when I scheduled it, I was already running in my head like, okay, it could go like this, it could sort of go like this,
Mhm.
and I was thinking about it a lot and how it could go. And I wanted to be like, okay, I sort of already got an idea of what it could go like because I've had a couple sessions before,
Okay.
and I watched it and I sort of looked at it in terms of, okay, is this guy like, is he good with this? Do I agree with this conclusion? And
Mhm.
I did, and I thought you're good at what you do, and
Ah,
that made
thanks.
me more, yeah, and that made me more affirmed in choosing. And then that's sort of what I was evaluating when watching sort of how it goes. Like, are you credible?
Mhm.
That's sort
Mhm.
of what I was thinking of when watching it.
What do you think is the criteria whereby something is credible?
Um, Whether someone is able to do what they say or if they are living up to the system or if they make sense to me, it could be a sort of a mixture of both. And I guess it's whether just if they're good at what they do.
And how do you determine if someone is good at what they do?
I determine it whether by I sort of I sort of count whether it makes sense to me or not, but I also know that's not like everything. And I also look at whether it whether they do it correctly or not, or there's no misinformation, because there tends to be a lot of that as well.
Hmm.
And there wasn't, and that deemed it good in my eyes.
How do you determine whether something is misinformation?
I By the definitions that are already there. Like, for example, Young defines the functions like this, and if someone says it wrong or misinterprets it for another function and says that, then I won't really have respect for them,
Hmm.
because I'll be like, okay, if they're just gonna do this, then what are they gonna do with me, you know? And
So,
then, yeah.
so is it their disagreement with Jung, or is it the inconsistency or something like that? Or is it
it's
both?
tough.
Is it
It's
like
tough to
he's a
say
very
because
highly respected guy? Or like what was good, sorry.
it's tough to say because it's like really both. Like, it tends to go both ways. Um, Sometimes it is whether it just makes sense to me or not, and if there's logical inconsistencies. But there's also a lot of times where it's like, okay, here's the research. Does it fit the definitions that are there? You know,
Mhm.
so
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
it's hard to say. I would say.
What would you say is something that you can say very definitively? What's a statement you could say with very strong level of definitiveness?
Uh, Never really thought of that. I guess I don't really know. Could it just be anything?
Anything.
Or
Whatever comes to mind.
um what goes around comes around. I could
Okay.
definitely say that.
Okay. Why?
And I've seen it happen a lot.
Mhm.
It, like, without fail, if someone does something or if it's wrong or anything like that, karma does come eventually,
Mhm.
whether
Mhm.
you like it or not.
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
And countless times I've seen it happen. So that's what I can say definitively.
Do you when you say countless times you've seen what goes around comes around? Could you give me some concrete examples of that you can remember? Like literal ones, like you actually experienced it.
Um, I don't know if I can, because I'm not good with recalling literal stuff, like, at all.
Okay.
Like, when I look into my memory, it's like hazy bits and fragments of different things, and nothing's like too detailed or anything. But I guess one I can say, it's going to be very hazy, but there was a time when my cousin did something to my game or something like that. I can't remember too well. But then
Mhm.
later, the same thing happened to their game. And then that was the karma that hit eventually.
Okay. Okay. So, so would you say then that the reinforcement in your mind of that ism, whatever it's called, that expression, um, came about by not by necessarily, well, you're saying that you've experienced that happening, and then that sort of strengthened that perspective that you had on it? Am I
Yeah,
saying it back to you the way you're saying it to me, I guess?
yeah. Um, I mean, seeing it happen did reinforce it, if that makes sense. Like,
Hmm.
it did improve my perspective on it.
Hmm. Okay. Um, are you the type of person who, when you're trying to solve a problem, like, I guess, what's your go-to method like for problem solving? Like I'll just give you a few examples from myself. Like one go-to method I have is I'll make a spreadsheet of it, whatever it is. I'll just if it's spreadsheetable, I'll do it. Um, sometimes when I'm trying to figure things out, I'll write out like bullet points and like organize my thoughts into like buckets, you know. Um, and basically I use a lot of like sort of different kinds of software. I'll make charts and things like that for myself as well to like visualize the thoughts I'm having, um, or the ideas, you know, like visualize ideas. So,
Yeah.
do you have any kinds of things that are like that for how you solve problems in your life that you just sort of go to regularly? Like some people write in a notebook or notepad. They do the journaling, the dot journaling or whatever it's called. I forget what it's called.
Hmm.
So, what do you use? Yeah,
I would
what's your
say
go-to?
I would say that I mean my first instinct whenever I encounter a problem, my main go-to is just Googling what the problem is, and that usually always works. But then, if that doesn't, then I'll try and consult the manual of whatever I have, if it's something of that nature. Or if that doesn't really work, then in my head, I'll sort of like visualize and run through different things and see what could fix it, or see, okay, if I do this, this will play out like this, and then I'll run through different versions of that.
Mhm.
And if that works for more like things that are not too complex, I can
Mhm.
solve it like that. But typically, I would say I consult outside sort of sources like Google or manuals or something like that. I can come up with my own like logical solution, but sometimes I'll have that sense of like, but what if I'm not right? You know,
Mhm.
then I sort
Mhm.
of need to check it, and then I'll be like, okay. So that's how I typically go with problem solving.
Okay. Okay. How far in advance would you say you are trying to solve for or, you know, predict out or whatever? How far would you say that you go?
I would say I can go far or less. It really depends on what the situation calls for. Uh, for example, with my career and school, I'll look at what I want and how this will lead out to whether it is a good thing to get into, or so I'll look very far ahead in that. But if it's like a situational thing, I'll play it as long as the situation calls for,
Mhm.
and so it's more malleable.
Mhm.
I say
Mhm.
I do have the ability to go far, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Good. And um, would you say that your style of would you say that you think in probabilities when you're thinking about those futures? When you're thinking about the future or thinking about where you want to go? How much does probability play into that, I guess?
I would say it may not come always, but I do try and think like that.
Mhm.
Like, I do suffer from indecision and things sometimes,
Mhm.
because I'm like, it's not necessarily because I'm thinking about tons of things. It's more so I'm having trouble deciding between two things or something.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or I try and pick like the perfect decision, and then
Right.
that ironically ends up wasting time. and and then so yeah, I would say I think I do think in more probabilities, although I do have the tendency to just think, yeah, I would say probabilities.
Okay. Um, what do you think about how um good are you at being led? Like some people are like loners, and some people have to be the leader, and some people have to be the follower. Um, so where do you tend to naturally gravitate in that whole pecking order thing?
I would say I'm definitely on the loner side of things, and it's like I typically like being the loner because I like to do my own thing. I can't really associate with people that might like mess up what I'm doing or anything like that. If it's work related things or just social related, I just like being on my own because I don't like to deal with the hassle of all of that.
Mhm,
And but if I had to choose between like leader or follower,
mhm,
I
mhm,
would probably choose leader because I really don't like saying like, oh, I'm a follower. Like
mhm.
those words don't sound good to me.
Right.
I just don't like them.
That's harsh on your ears.
Yeah. It's like, how can you be proud of being a follower? Like, I just don't get it. But I won't really take it up like by choice. I'll just do my own thing. But if I have to, I choose leader.
Okay. Um, would you say that could you describe um like how comfortable are you at improvising?
Uh, Not too great, I would say. Uh, some things I can sort of like, for example, like if I'm going into a conversation, I won't necessarily be step by step like, okay, they're gonna say this, I'm gonna plan to say this. No, I
Mhm.
realize conversations are sort of unpredictable in a way.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but in most things, I'm not too good with improvisation. Like for example, uh, even when I was coming here, I was making sure like, okay, is everything ready? Like, is my mic working? And then things like that. Or if I'm in a school presentation, I'll make sure like my slides are defined. I know what I'm gonna say. I'll even
Mhm.
write like note cards so that if I forget what to say, I can at least look at that. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I can't really deal with what would happen if I forget and I'm just standing there. I try to avoid that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Is it
I would
because of
say,
is it because of like the social fallout?
um, sort of in a way. I also look at how I'm evaluated. Like, oh, my grade will be bad if I do that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And but of course, there is also sort of the embarrassment of just standing there and not knowing what to say in front of everyone. Like
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
also there somewhat.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I would say I try and prepare. But some things like sometimes when I'm on vacation, I won't really strictly plan what I'm doing. Like, okay, like at this time we're gonna go to this event, and no, I sort of have that side of me that likes to just go and do things sometimes, like what I feel.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I feel like going to that place, that'll be fun, and then I'd
Mhm.
like to do that. But with more important things, I like to prepare, I would say.
Mhm. 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 Okay. So, um, let me ask you this: what kind of leader are you when you're in situations, or have you been in situations where you were a leader, and how were you as a leader? Like, did you do something different, or I don't know? Is
Uh,
that a situation you've been in that you can recall?
as a leader, I I think I do fairly well. Like, what I'll do is if it's a work related thing, I'll often look at the specifications of like what is going on or what we have to do, and I'll make sure that those are happening. I'll be like, okay, you do this part of the project at this time. I'll do this part. Everyone do their parts, and then
Mhm.
I'll make sure that that happens.
Mhm.
And I won't be too happy if people like get it in like later, or if it's really bad, or if they didn't do it. So that'll won't make me happy. And if it's something like if I'm leading a more something that's not too work related, like for example an event, then I don't think I've like ever done that, maybe once, but I try to look at, okay, everyone sort of, because sort of just tend to what's going on, the situation, and I make sure it runs smoothly while not being too overbearing on people, I would say.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
would say that's how I am as a leader. Yeah, what I would
Okay,
say.
so you're factoring in people's feelings to a degree. You're not just completely leaving them in the dust, basically. There's
Yeah,
some leaders that'll just walk all over people.
yeah.
What would happen if an employee of yours accused you of walking all over them?
Uh, well, first of all, I'd be looking at, uh, well, what did I do?
Mhm.
And I'd just be asking them, well, how did I walk over you? Because
Mhm.
I wouldn't necessarily just start apologizing to them. That'd just be stupid. I'd be like, okay, what did I do?
Right.
And then I'll see whether that was wrong or not.
Mhm.
And then if I do decide it's wrong, I'll be like, okay, I apologize. But if it's not wrong, I'll be like, quit being a baby and just go back.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Um, okay, I have a theory. Uh, let's see. How are we doing on time? Hold on. I'm resizing this window, and the whole world is falling apart right now.
Hmm.
Because I've lost track of which one is the real window. Which one's the
Uh,
real one? You ever get that problem where the screen recording software is overlaying everything else?
uh,
I'm having a boomer moment, is what I'm saying. Sorry,
yeah.
no offense to the boomers watching this video,
Whoa.
but I am having a slight boomer moment right now.
Oof.
There we go. All right. Jeez. And I didn't even figure out the thing I was trying to figure out. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna cut this out. This will be raw. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so we have a few more minutes before the break. So I want to ask one more question, and I'm trying to think of something. Maybe I had those technical problems because subconsciously I was stalling to try to figure out what the right question to ask you is.
Yeah.
Um, so I noticed that you put, like, I would say a decent amount of effort into your appearance, and so what is your relationship to clothing, fashion, art? The couch behind you. Like, what is your relationship to those kind of artifacts that you have in your life?
I would say I like my things to look good to an extent. I do care about that.
Mhm.
Not terribly, but I like to make sure that it's at least I just like it.
Mhm.
And with my appearance, I'm mostly just doing this because I know I'm like have to be somewhere, but typically when I'm at like home or just going to the grocery store, I really won't care about how I look.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'll
Mhm.
just be just down, I'll just be comfortable, whatever.
Mhm.
But if I have somewhere to do or like somewhere to go, then I'll be like even somewhat obsessive over what I look because
Mhm.
I want to make sure that what I'm portraying is good. Like,
Right.
for example, my friend, we were gonna go somewhere to eat, and then um um he's like, "Want to go eat?" I'm like, "Sure, let me go get ready." And then I put on good clothes. I'm like ready to go, and he was wearing like dirty sweatpants, and then like that's something I wouldn't do like at all.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, sure, at home, whatever, but if I'm doing something, then I'll selectively make sure that I look good then, basically.
Okay. So I am gonna go pour myself drink number two. I have a lot to think about.
Okay.
It's sometimes I'm like really confident right off the bat, and I'm not there yet.
Okay.
But I have some ideas. So I think while I'm making my drink, that's when the thoughts will hit me. So, all right,
Okay.
to be continued for those watching. See you in part B. Peace out.